The Russo-Ukrainian War, which began in 2022, escalated dramatically in August 2024 with Ukraine's decision to launch a cross-border incursion into Russia's Kursk Oblast. This operation marked a significant shift in Ukraine's military strategy, which had primarily been focused on defensive operations within its own borders. The decision to target Kursk was driven by its strategic importance as a logistical hub, particularly its gas pipelines, which are vital to Russia's economy. The Ukrainian military, having rebuilt its strength with significant Western support, including advanced weaponry and intelligence sharing from NATO, saw an opportunity to disrupt Russian supply lines and create chaos within Russian territory. The Ukrainian government aimed to demonstrate its capability to strike deep into Russian territory, thereby forcing Russia to divert its military resources and potentially opening up new fronts in the conflict. Kursk was not just a random target. Its capture would symbolize a psychological and tactical victory, potentially altering the dynamics of the ongoing war. On August 6, 2024, the Ukrainian armed forces launched a surprise incursion into Kursk Oblast, marking one of the most daring operations of the conflict. The Ukrainian 22nd Mechanized Brigade, supported by special forces and air defense units, spearheaded the attack, advancing rapidly into Russian territory. The operation was meticulously planned, taking advantage of intelligence that indicated Russian border defenses were weak and poorly coordinated. Ukrainian forces quickly overwhelmed the Russian border guards and local military units, capturing several strategic points, including the Sudza checkpoint, which is crucial for the region's gas infrastructure. The speed and efficiency of the Ukrainian advance caught the Russian military off guard, leading to confusion and disarray among Russian commanders. Within hours, Ukrainian forces had penetrated up to 10 kilometers into Russian territory, establishing control over key locations and disrupting Russian communications. The initial success of the incursion demonstrated the effectiveness of Ukraine's rebuilt military and highlighted the vulnerabilities in Russia's border security. As Ukrainian forces pushed deeper into Kursk Oblast, they encountered sporadic resistance from Russian forces, which were hastily mobilized in response to the incursion. The primary objective of the Ukrainian offensive was to secure key logistical routes and disrupt Russian military operations in the region. The capture of the Sudza checkpoint allowed Ukrainian forces to control a vital gas pipeline that runs through Kursk, further amplifying the strategic impact of the operation. The Ukrainian advance was characterized by swift maneuvering and coordinated attacks on Russian positions, which were often poorly defended due to the rapid nature of the incursion. Ukrainian forces utilized a combination of mechanized infantry, armored units, and air support to maintain their momentum, while Russian forces struggled to mount a cohesive defense. The incursion into Kursk not only demonstrated Ukraine's ability to project power beyond its borders, but also exposed the weaknesses in Russia's military infrastructure, particularly in its border regions. The capture of Sudza, a key town in Kursk Oblast, was a major objective for the Ukrainian forces during the incursion. The town's strategic location made it a critical target, as controlling Sudza would enable Ukraine to further disrupt Russian supply lines and maintain pressure on Russian forces in the region. The battle for Sudza was intense, with Ukrainian forces facing stiff resistance from Russian troops who had been rushed to the area. Despite the challenges, Ukrainian forces were able to secure the town after several hours of fierce fighting, during which they neutralized Russian defensive positions and took control of key infrastructure, including the gas metering station. The fall of Sudza was a significant blow to Russian morale and demonstrated the effectiveness of Ukraine's offensive tactics. The Ukrainian victory in Sudza also had a psychological impact, as it marked one of the first instances in the conflict where Ukrainian forces were able to hold territory within Russia for an extended period. The success of the operation in Sudza highlighted the growing capabilities of the Ukrainian military and underscored the strategic vulnerabilities of Russian forces in the region. In the aftermath of the Ukrainian incursion into Kursk Oblast, the Russian government quickly mobilized additional forces in an attempt to repel the Ukrainian advance and restore control over the region. The Russian military response was characterized by a combination of airstrikes, missile attacks, and the deployment of ground forces to counter the Ukrainian offensive. However, the speed and scale of the Ukrainian incursion had caught the Russian military off guard, leading to a delayed and somewhat disorganized response. Russian forces were able to slow the Ukrainian advance, but they struggled to regain full control over the territory that had been captured by Ukrainian forces. The incursion into Kursk also led to a state of emergency being declared in the region, with Russian authorities implementing strict security measures and mobilizing reserves to bolster the defenses. The incursion had significant political and military implications, as it exposed the weaknesses in Russia's border security and highlighted the challenges faced by the Russian military in defending its territory against a determined and capable adversary. The Ukrainian incursion into Kursk Oblast had far-reaching consequences for both Ukraine and Russia. In the immediate aftermath of the operation, Ukrainian forces were able to secure several key objectives, including the control of strategic infrastructure and the disruption of Russian supply lines. However, the operation also resulted in significant casualties on both sides, and the Ukrainian forces eventually faced increasing resistance as Russia mobilized additional troops and resources to counter the offensive. Despite the challenges, the incursion demonstrated Ukraine's ability to conduct complex military operations beyond its borders and underscored the vulnerabilities in Russia's border defenses. The operation also had a significant impact on the civilian population in Kursk, with reports of casualties and displacement as a result of the fighting. The incursion into Kursk marked a turning point in the conflict, as it showed that Ukraine was not only capable of defending its territory but also of taking the fight to Russia, challenging the notion of Russian invulnerability and raising questions about the future course of the war. The operation demonstrated that Ukraine was willing and able to carry out offensive operations within Russian territory, challenging the status quo and potentially altering the dynamics of the conflict. The incursion also had a profound impact on the international community, with NATO and Western allies closely monitoring the situation and considering their options for providing further support to Ukraine. The operation in Kursk also raised questions about Russia's ability to defend its territory and maintain its influence in the region, as the incursion exposed the weaknesses in Russia's military infrastructure and the challenges it faced in countering a determined and capable adversary. The global implications of the incursion into Kursk were far-reaching, as it highlighted the potential for the conflict to escalate further and raise concerns about the stability of the region and the broader international order. The Ukrainian incursion into Kursk Oblast marked the beginning of a new phase in the Russo-Ukrainian War, as it demonstrated Ukraine's ability to carry out offensive operations beyond its borders and challenge Russian control over its own territory. The operation had significant implications for the future course of the conflict, as it raised the possibility of further Ukrainian incursions into Russian territory and the potential for a broader escalation of the war. The incursion also underscored the need for Russia to reassess its military strategy and strengthen its border defenses in order to prevent future incursions. The operation in Kursk highlighted the growing capabilities of the Ukrainian military and the challenges faced by Russia in defending its territory against a determined and capable adversary. The future of the conflict remains uncertain, but the incursion into Kursk has shown that Ukraine is not only capable of defending its territory but also of taking the fight to Russia, challenging the notion of Russian invulnerability and raising questions about the future of the conflict and the broader international order.